Right now, somewhere in the world, a family is sitting in a cold house, not because they can't afford heat, but because nobody ever told them about two things sitting in their kitchen: charcoal and salt. That's it. Two things. And together, they can heat a room for weeks. Completely free, no electricity, no gas bill, no special equipment. And the craziest part, this isn't new. This isn't some internet hack somebody made up last week. People were doing this long before your grandfather was born, so why doesn't anybody talk about it anymore? That's exactly what we're going to find out today. Before we go any further, if you're new here, this channel breaks down the kind of practical, real-world economic knowledge that most people never get taught. Not the stuff they cover in schools, not the stuff they talk about on the news, the real stuff, the kind of information that quietly saves families hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars a year. So if that sounds like something useful to you, hit subscribe right now, because what we're covering today is just the beginning. Now let's get into it. Every single winter, millions of households across the United States and across the world spend money they don't have on heating bills they can't avoid. In the US alone, the average family spends somewhere between $800 and $1,500 every single winter just to keep their home warm. That number has been climbing for years, and the worst part is most people just accept it. They see the bill, they feel the pain, and they think, this is just how it works. This is just the cost of staying warm. There's no other option. But here's what nobody is telling you. There is another option. There has always been another option, and it costs almost nothing. Think about what charcoal actually is for a second. Most people think of it as something you throw in a grill on a Saturday afternoon. You cook your burgers, you cook your steaks, and when you're done, the bag goes back in the garage and you forget about it until next summer. That's the full story for most people. But charcoal has been used as a heat source for thousands of years, long before natural gas lines ran under city streets, long before electric heaters plugged into walls, long before any of the infrastructure we take for granted today even existed. People were burning charcoal to keep themselves warm through brutal winters. And they weren't doing it carelessly. They had systems, they had methods, they understood how to use it safely and efficiently in ways that most people today have completely forgotten. Now add salt to that picture, and this is where things get genuinely interesting. Salt on its own does something unusual when it comes into contact with heat. It absorbs thermal energy and then releases it slowly over time. This is basic chemistry. It's not complicated. But what it means in practical terms is that when you combine the steady burn of charcoal with the thermal retention properties of salt, you create something that doesn't just produce heat fast and burn out. You create a slow, sustained, consistent heat source, one that keeps going long after the initial burn has settled down. That's the part that most people have never heard explained. And that's the part that changes everything when you're thinking about how to heat a space without electricity, without gas, without any ongoing cost at all. Now you might be sitting there right now thinking, okay, but is this actually safe? Is this something a real person can do in a real home without it becoming a disaster? And that's a completely fair question. It's actually the most important question. Because the reason this method works, the reason it's been used for centuries, is not just because it produces heat. It's because when it's done correctly, it produces heat in a way that is manageable, controllable, and repeatable. And we are going to walk through exactly how that works. But first, let's understand something important about why this knowledge disappeared in the first place, because that story is more interesting than most people realize, and it tells you a lot about how the modern energy economy actually works. To understand why this method disappeared, you have to go back about 150 years, not to a lab, not to a government office, but to the moment when energy stopped being something people produced for themselves and became something people bought from someone else. For most of human history, staying warm was a personal problem with a personal solution. You gathered wood, you made charcoal, you managed your fire, you figured out what worked in your specific home, in your specific climate, with the specific materials available to you. That knowledge was passed down. Fathers taught sons, mothers taught daughters. Communities shared techniques the way they shared recipes or farming methods. It was just part of life, part of what it meant to be a functioning adult in the world. Then industrialization happened, and slowly, quietly, that knowledge became unnecessary. Coal companies started delivering fuel directly to homes. Then gas lines went in. Then electric grids expanded, and with every new system that came along, one more layer of self-sufficiency got peeled away. Not because people stopped needing heat, but because a more convenient option appeared, and convenience almost always wins. Nobody sat down and decided to forget how to heat their home without a utility company. It just happened. Generation by generation, the old methods stopped being taught because they stopped seeming relevant. Why learn to make charcoal heat when you can just turn a dial? The problem is that convenience has a price, and that price has been going up for decades. When you depend entirely on a utility company for your heat, You have no negotiating power. You pay what they charge, you absorb every rate increase, you feel every supply disruption, you have no fallback. And the people running those companies understand that perfectly. Heat is not a luxury. It is not something people can simply choose to go without when prices rise. It is a necessity. And when you are selling something people cannot live without, you have enormous pricing power. That is not a conspiracy. That is just basic economics. And it is the reason why understanding alternatives, real, practical, working alternatives, is more valuable today than it has been in a very long time. So let's talk about how the charcoal and salt method actually works. Not in vague terms, not in the way someone might describe it at a dinner party to sound interesting, but in real, specific, practical terms that you could actually use. Charcoal burns at a consistent, controllable temperature. Unlike wood, which flares and spits and requires constant management, charcoal produces a steady, even heat once it is properly lit. This is why it was used in forges, in kilns, and cooking stoves for centuries, because predictability matters when you are trying to heat a space safely. A fire that behaves unpredictably is a fire that can become dangerous. A fire that behaves consistently is a fire you can manage. Charcoal, when handled correctly, is manageable. Now here is where salt enters the equation. When you pack salt tightly around or beneath a heat source, something specific happens. Salt has what scientists call a high specific heat capacity. That is a technical way of saying it takes a lot of energy to heat salt up. But once it is hot, it holds that heat for a very long time and releases it slowly. You have probably experienced this without realizing it. Think about how long a cast iron pan stays hot after you take it off the stove. Salt behaves similarly, but even more dramatically. A container packed with salt that has been properly heated can continue radiating warmth into a room for hours after the initial heat source has been removed or burned down. That is the core principle behind this method. You are not just burning charcoal for heat. You are using the charcoal to charge the salt, and then the salt becomes your actual long-term heat source. This is not magic. This is not a trick. This is thermodynamics. It is the same principle behind the clay ovens that have been used in cold climates for thousands of years. It is the same principle behind the heated stone beds that ancient Korean homes were built around. Different cultures, different materials, same fundamental science. Heat something with high thermal mass, and it will give that heat back to you slowly over time. Now, the practical setup is simpler than most people imagine. You do not need a specialized container. You do not need professional equipment. What you need is a heat-safe vessel, a clay pot, a metal container, even a cast iron pan in some configurations, a quantity of standard table salt or rock salt, and a modest amount of charcoal. The charcoal heats the salt. The salt stores the heat. The stored heat radiates slowly and steadily into the surrounding space. In a reasonably insulated room of average size, a properly set up charcoal and salt system can maintain a noticeably warmer temperature for an extended period, hours, not minutes. And when the heat starts to fade, you simply repeat the process. The salt itself is reusable indefinitely. The charcoal is the only consumable, and charcoal is one of the cheapest fuel sources available almost anywhere in the world. There's one thing that needs to be said clearly here, and it would be irresponsible to skip over it. Burning charcoal indoors produces carbon monoxide. This is not a minor detail. Carbon monoxide is colorless, odorless, and dangerous at elevated concentrations. Any indoor use of charcoal requires ventilation. Not a window cracked slightly, proper ventilation. This is not a reason to dismiss the method. It is a reason to apply it correctly. Throughout history, cultures that used charcoal heat indoors understood this. Their homes were designed with it in mind. Their methods accounted for it. The mistake is not in the method. The mistake is in applying any heat-producing system carelessly. Respect the chemistry, manage the environment, and this becomes a safe and genuinely useful technique. And that brings us to the most important part of this entire conversation, the part where we talk about exactly what you need, how much of it, and precisely what to do with it. Let's get specific, because specific is the difference between information that sounds interesting and information that actually changes something in your life. Here is what you need. A clay pot, the kind you find at any garden center or home goods store, works exceptionally well because clay itself has good thermal properties and handles heat safely. You want 2 of them, one slightly larger than the other. A bag of standard rock salt or table salt, a small quantity of charcoal briquettes, the compressed kind, not the quick light variety with chemical accelerants, a heat-safe tray or surface to place everything on, and a way to light the charcoal safely, which can be as simple as a long match or a lighter. That is the entire list. No specialized tools, no expensive equipment, nothing you need to order online and wait a week for. Everything on that list is available at a hardware store, a garden center, or a grocery store. Most people already have several of these items sitting at home right now. Here is the setup. You light a small amount of charcoal, 3 to 5 briquettes is enough to start, and allow it to reach full heat. You will know it is ready when the outer surface turns gray and ash-covered. That means it is burning cleanly and consistently. You place the burning charcoal in the smaller clay pot. You pack the space around it with salt, not loosely sprinkled, but packed in firmly so the salt is in direct contact with the heat. You then place the larger clay pot over the top, inverted, creating an enclosed chamber that traps and concentrates the heat while allowing the salt to absorb it fully. The outer surface of the larger pot will become warm to the touch within minutes, and it will begin radiating that warmth into the surrounding room steadily and continuously. As the charcoal burns down over the next hour or two, the salt has already absorbed a significant amount of thermal energy. Even after the charcoal is fully spent, the salt continues releasing heat into the room. Depending on the size of the space, the quality of your insulation, and the outdoor temperature, you can expect meaningful warmth for several hours from a single small charge of charcoal. Run this process 2 or 3 times across the course of a day, and you have a room that stays genuinely, comfortably warm, using a fraction of the cost of any conventional heating system. And here is the part that most people do not think about until they try it. The salt never wears out. You are not consuming the salt. You are using it as a battery, charging it with heat, discharging it into the room, and then charging it again. The same batch of salt can be used day after day, week after week, through an entire winter season. The only ongoing cost is charcoal, and charcoal, purchased in bulk, costs a fraction of what most households spend on electricity or gas for heating each month. Now let's put some real perspective around this. The average American household heating bill during winter months runs between $60 and $150 per month, depending on location, home size, and current energy prices. A large bag of charcoal briquettes, the kind that would last a family several weeks using this method, costs somewhere between $10 and $20 at most retail stores. Even accounting for the initial cost of the clay pots and salt, which is a one-time expense, the economics are straightforward. This is not a marginal saving. For families in colder climates running high heating bills every month from November through March, the difference adds up to hundreds of dollars per season. Real money. Money that stays in your pocket instead of going to a utility company. But here's the bigger point, and this is the one that this channel keeps coming back to over and over again because it matters more than any single tip or technique. The real value of knowing something like this is not just the money it saves you today, it is the independence it gives you permanently. When you know how to heat your home without relying on any external system, no grid, no gas line, no delivery schedule, no company whose prices you cannot control, you have something that most people in the modern world have quietly given up without even realizing it. You have options, and options in any economic situation are worth more than almost anything else. Think about the last time there was a major winter storm in your area or in any area you saw covered on the news. What is always one of the first problems that gets reported? Power outages, heating failures, people who are suddenly cold in their own homes with no backup, no plan, and no way to fix the situation themselves. They are entirely dependent on someone else restoring a system they have no control over. That vulnerability is not inevitable. It is a choice. Or more accurately, it is the result of never being taught that another choice exists. You now know that another choice exists. That is the whole point of everything covered in this video. Not to tell you to throw away your thermostat or disconnect from your utility company, but to make sure that when the situation demands it, whether it is an outage, a price spike, a supply disruption, or simply a month when the budget is tight, you are not helpless. You have a method that works. You have the knowledge. You have the option. This channel exists because economic knowledge should not be the exclusive property of people who can afford expensive advisors or who happen to have grown up around the right information. The kind of practical, real, usable knowledge that quietly makes life more manageable. That should be available to everyone. And the more people who have it, the better off communities become as a whole. If this video gave you something genuinely useful, drop a comment below and tell us. Tell us whether you have tried something like this before, or whether this was completely new to you. Tell us what other topics you want covered. Your comments are what tell us what to make next, and they are what help this channel reach people who need this kind of information, but have never found it yet. Share this video with one person, just one, who you think would benefit from knowing this, because the best way to fight economic disadvantage is to spread the kind of knowledge that most people never get. That is it for today. We will see you in the next one.